On this episode, we discuss our most recent experience with Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and preview some of the magical things that happened to us on this most recent trip to Walt Disney World. This is episode 73 of Salute to the Ears. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Salute to the Ears. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Erica.
And we are back from your 40th birthday trip.
My magical 40th birthday trip.
There were lots of magic moments.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of sweat.
Just a little bit.
It was a little hot.
Here's the thing though. It wasn't as hot there though as it was back here in Kansas City.
No,
so...
which is saying a lot because it was like 95 there every day. Yeah. But when you have a heat index of like 120 back here, it's...
Lawrence got up to 135 with the heat index one day while we were gone.
Crazy.
I still can't even process
that.
But it was hot. It was humid. It was not crazy busy.
No, it wasn't. We didn't wait crazy long for a lot of things.
We also took advantage big time of extra hours, Genie Plus,
right?
Individual lightning lanes, virtual queues, and just using our time, rope dropping, using our time and divvying up what things we wanted to do when we wanted to do them in order to maximize that.
Right. I definitely feel like this trip we got the most out of our Genie Plus.
Oh, for sure. The only other place I think we got the most out of Genie Plus was Disneyland.
Yeah. I mean, as far as our Disney World trips that we've done and we've used this, I think we took the most advantage of it this time.
So we were talking about what we wanted to share from this trip because we've shared some stuff. You did a pretty good job on Twitter of kind of doing the day-to-day updates of like what we were doing or like big things. We sneak peeked a few things on Instagram, but we did not do the like play-by-play on Instagram during our trip because ahead of our trip, I said one of the things that was so hard about our last couple of trips was trying to stay on top of the trip, like, and enjoy it and be present in the moment and also grab content to be able to share because we do want to share with you guys what, our trips are like and how we do take advantage of those things.
Right.
So we tried to just stay present. So we haven't shared like all the things. There's been a few highlight things that have definitely we couldn't help but talk about.
That trip started off with a bang.
And so we do want to talk about those things, but we are definitely not going to get to everything in this. There's going to be a lot more that we're going to share about our trip and using DVC points and transportation and like we got lots and lots of points to cover over the next couple of weeks. But today I definitely want to share our thoughts on Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party this year.
Absolutely.
Because it was
different this year than last year because it wasn't raining.
It wasn't raining, which meant it was busier.
Right. Yeah. It was definitely busier. It was actually busier at the party than it was during the park.
I know, which is insane. So I wanted to talk about our Mickey's Not So Scary review.
Uh-huh.
And I want to briefly talk about the preview of just like the highlight things that either happened or we participated in so that we can kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think we need to talk about Mickey's Not So Scary because out of all the things, this is the one thing we got that's like time sensitive.
Yeah.
Right? Like we said, this one was different than last year because one, it wasn't raining. And I think with it not raining, more people were showing up at 4. Like,
oh yeah,
when we got there, what did we get there, like 4:30 or something? We didn't get there that late.
It wasn't. Yeah, it really wasn't that bad.
Like, we were able to get in fairly quickly. We kind of took the back way in, and like we came in like your day guest. We were at the park that day.
We were at the park that day, so we had park tickets that day, so we were able to get in no problem
Right.
because we had park hopper tickets. Like even if we'd been in another park, we would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But so we were able to get in and use regular guest entry at 4:30 rather than having to wait through the line
Right.
to get our wristbands.
Right. We did have to wait to get our wristbands. We went where did we get it at? Down in Adventureland? Is that where we went?
Adventureland across from the entrance to Pirates.
Yeah, over at Tortuga Tavern.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which
We
was
had to
awesome.
wait a little bit, but not real long. Like,
Now, the reason we had to wait there is because their iPads or tablet, whatever it is that they're using
mm-hmm.
there, kept shutting down.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
they kept getting logged out. And so they were having a tech issue, was the wait
Right.
versus it was like every other person, they would have to like reset it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that hadn't have happened, we would have
Then
been through there in 5 minutes.
yeah, if that. Like I said, like they were having trouble with their scanners also because of the sun, because
Mm-hmm.
it was still very bright, and they were having a hard time scanning.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, lots of people. It was.
I mean, it was a lot of people. And I think we're seeing this across the board at the Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of thought maybe they weren't going to be as busy this year. Like maybe they hadn't sold as many tickets, but
Right.
that is evidently not
Yeah.
true. Like
Right.
those, especially those nights that are sold out,
Yeah.
y'all
Yeah.
like plan for it to be pretty full.
Right.
And
It,
here's the hard part. You do not have the things eating up crowds like you would potentially during the day.
right. And that's a good point. And I think something else we have to talk about is on a previous episode when we had call on, we talked about really having a plan.
Yeah.
Right. And for us, we had a kind of a loose plan going in
Mm-hmm.
of like, these are things we want to do. And we did most of those.
Yeah.
We had something that kind of threw a wrench in it in the beginning we'll talk about. But like Kharique, following like Kingdakha on YouTube, he had a strict plan. He had some things fall his way.
Right.
To where he was able to get first in line for Jack and Sally, and then
Yeah,
Seven
but
Dwarfs
his priority is
is
meeting
meet and
characters.
greets.
His
Right.
priority is meeting characters and then shows.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
that's kind of
those
what
are
I
his
was
two.
gonna get to is whatever your plan is, whatever your number one thing is, you need to stick to that.
Yeah.
Because with these crowds, you're not gonna get everything done. Like,
And it is one of the disappointing things about spending the money on a party ticket like this and having all of these different things to do. You
Right.
have the trick or treat trails, you
Mhm.
have rides with overlays like Space Mountain, you have, the shows and the Boo Parade, and you have the unique character meet and greets,
Mhm.
and you have, you just have the nice thing too is just all the people around in costumes. We saw some amazing costumes.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
I felt like we would take like 20 steps and be complimenting somebody else because
yeah,
they had a great costume. I'm not saying that, none of those things are like, oh, don't do that.
yeah.
Right? Like none
Right.
of the activities that are a part of Mickey's Not So Scary, you should be like, nope, I'm definitely not going to do that unless it's something that like you normally wouldn't do anyway.
Right.
If you normally don't do character meet and greets, skip those.
Right.
We've talked about that.
Yep.
Because here's the thing is that those meet and greets start long before the party for some of them.
Right.
Some of them don't start until right at 7.
Right. Absolutely.
And so you have to like, this is one of those things that kind of sucks about the way that this is set up and letting people in early. And part of me gets it because I understand how drastic those lines get.
Mm-hmm.
To where I go, great, you have the availability to do virtual queues, do a virtual queue. Because I'm a little frustrated by the aspect of if you don't go, the party starts at 7, your ticket says 7. If you don't go and you aren't in there before 4,
right,
really by 3:30,
especially for Jack and Sally.
If you aren't in there by 3:30, you are going to be waiting in line.
Yeah, and
like
that
guaranteed.
That line can get 2 hours plus easy. It's you just happen to have to time it right.
Yeah.
And
So we happened to run into a family from the UK
mm-hmm.
who were super, super sweet. We rode the Skyliner with them, and their little boy is a huge Jack Skellington fan.
Right.
And so we brought up to them, we'd already done the party. Kharique had already had his experience
mm-hmm.
getting in line with them. Again, make sure you check out his YouTube for all the details on that. We were able to tell them, like, that line opens at 4. They had no idea.
Right.
And they've done the party before. It's not like they're like,
right.
This wasn't their first time to the parks, but they had no idea.
Right.
And so we were able to help them hopefully meet Jack
right.
Without having to stand in line all night, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like paying for the ticket is kind of one of those, like, pick what you want to do.
Right. If I will say this, if rides are your thing and you're going to this party thinking, hey, I'm going to get into all these short lines for rides, you're not necessarily going to. Some of them are, but like Haunted Mansion was long all night. Pirates was actually pretty long most of the night.
Yeah.
Space was, when we rode Space, it wasn't so bad.
But we rode Space during a
show.
During a show.
Yeah, during the show. Yep. If meet and greets is your thing, have a plan.
Yeah.
It's been going now long enough where you can figure out who's where
and what time those lines start. There
right.
are lots and lots of blogs and vlogs about that. So the characters that we were set to meet
mm-hmm.
was Donald and Daisy, because of
right.
course we dressed as Donald and Daisy, and we had an amazing character interaction with them.
We did.
I'm still trying to get
the second time we went
and got in line. So we stood in line for 45 minutes?
Yeah, at least.
And then found out that it was going to be at least another hour.
Yeah.
Where the cast member, I still think he told both us and the party in front of us an hour 35, but the way that he said it,
I think he said 35. There were too many people around there who heard him say 35. And then we were leaving, he was telling people, I don't know how long it is. I will say this, because they're inside the tent for Dumbo,
mm-hmm.
there's nothing there that tells you how long that wait is.
Yeah.
That line doesn't move quick.
Mm-mm.
If you see it outside of the tent, you're going to be waiting an hour.
Yeah. So we waited. Our problem was we had gotten a virtual queue for Tron.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and you want to try to ride Tron again, that virtual queue opens up at 6 p.m. Be aware of that when you are, entering that virtual queue.
Mm-hmm.
If you are wanting to ride it and at night in the dark, be prepared that if you get right on it, you might be an earlier boarding group, and it might still be light out.
That was us.
But the nice thing was, we kind of got that out of the way.
Yeah.
And then we're able to go and do all the other stuff that we wanted to do. So we stood in line for Donald and Daisy, got
mm-hmm.
out of line with a whole other group of people. There were a whole bunch of us that were like, forget this. And partly because we were getting hungry and, but we ended up coming back, and that time we only waited 25 minutes, maybe.
If that. Almost walked up, almost all the way up to them, where you got to sit down.
Yeah.
So we didn't wait that long, but as far as character interactions goes, for us, that was one of the best ones we've had.
Yeah.
Because
we met Goofy right before we went to them, and that was great too.
Yeah, whoever was Goofy was good. Was really spot on.
We had 2 good Goofy interactions while we were at the parks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about the second one in a little bit, but it was definitely something. We had a few rides that we wanted to do. We took advantage of most of the rides, like Magic Kingdom rides, that we wanted to do during the day.
Right.
We purposely did that.
Right.
With the intention of, we knew we were probably going to wait at least a while for Donald and Daisy. We knew that we were going to watch at least one parade, if not both,
Mm-hmm.
um, for content. We knew that we had like snacks and food and stuff that we wanted to try, so
Right.
we had other priorities than necessarily riding a bunch of rides.
Mm-hmm.
We did do Space Mountain
Yep.
in the dark,
Mm-hmm.
which is always just crazy to
It
me.
is. It is. Yep. I will say this every time you get on Space Mountain, but especially in the dark, brace yourself. Like,
Yeah.
use your feet to push yourself back in the seat so you're not being slung around quite so much.
Yeah. We got to watch, we had a pretty cool view of the first parade
Mm-hmm.
with close up interactions. We
We did.
actually stood with Kharique and his friend Cody,
Mm-hmm.
and that was so much fun.
Yeah. You were really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, even the daytime parade, I mean, we'll get into that later. We were really close on that one, too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on that first view of the parade, we were real close, right by the bridge.
Into Frontierland.
Yeah, Frontierland. Like, it separates kind of Frontierland and the
Or
hub.
Liberty. No, that's the bridge into Liberty Square. Yeah.
Yeah, Liberty. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that was a good close-up view. Problem is, there's not a lot of area there,
Mm-mm.
and if you got people in front of you, you're not going to get good pictures or
Mm-mm.
content. So, as good as that view was, we decided to watch it again later on the side of the hub over by Tomorrowland.
Yeah. Which is our favorite spot to watch.
Which it
parades
is.
from.
It's especially if you're like right there on the curb,
Mm-hmm.
and you can watch them come around. You still got the castle behind you, and it's not real bright
Yeah.
there. That's a good spot.
Which I just think is, during this parade,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want. I don't want it to be super bright because there's so much about the parade
Right.
that is supposed to be like spooky.
Spooky, and there's so many things that have bright lights on them.
You mean like black lights?
Yeah. Like lights that you're really going to appreciate when it's darker out. Yeah. It's because if you go, like, even one of the cast members was telling us, hey, if you really want a good spot, go all the way down to the end of the main street by the train station. It's not very crowded there. But as we watched opening night, we watched it live on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's really bright up there. Yeah. It's really bright.
There weren't very many people up there, which is great. No. I totally agree on that as far as like a spot. And if you have kids who are getting cranky or anything like that, like, and you need to be able to have a little more space and not be so like packed in with other people, great. Go up there by the train station. Totally agree. But understand that it is brighter up there.
It is.
So we had so much fun getting to watch that. We realized too that is a checkpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That end of that, like where the bridge turns into asphalt going into the hub, is a checkpoint for. So understand that floats may stop there.
Right.
The horseman stops there as the music plays for that section of the park, that section of the parade.
Yeah.
And so, just be understanding of like, it's not quite as, it doesn't flow necessarily
right
as well.
If there's something wrong with one of the characters, that's where they're going to pull them off.
Yeah.
So we watched them pull off, I think it was Pluto right there.
Which it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
It was still really warm at that point. My guess is that
Pluto needed some water.
Was getting overheated, but they had to fix Goofy. There was something wrong with like his harness or
and then they had to reset the float. Like they had to reset it with like almost like a laser, and then like wave like the motion thing in front of it so that it knew what to follow.
Yep.
So
really, really interesting to kind of see a little bit of the behind the scenes of that happen there. But if the shows and the fireworks and doing that kind of stuff are not your jam,
right,
go do other stuff during those times.
Absolutely.
Go ride other rides, go do character interactions.
Go do your trick-or-treat trails.
Go do your trick-or-treat trails. Like, do the other stuff during that time. And we talked about this, in our preview one, but it really did work out for us that it was during the fireworks show that we went and did a bunch of stuff.
Right.
It really
It
Like,
was. Um, I want to hit on a couple things. First, I want to talk about some of the food we had.
yes.
So we ended up going over to Cosmic Rays, or is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. And we got the twice spiced chicken sandwich.
Yeah, which you said was really good.
It was really good. I'm gonna throw this out there. So what this is, it's supposed to be their spicy chicken sandwich, and it has a jalapeno popper on there. That's a really big bite for
Yeah,
one,
it
because
was.
it's a big piece of chicken for
Mm-hmm.
like a chicken sandwich. Like it's not like going to a fast food place when it's a real thin one. No, this was like a solid piece of chicken. Um, but if eating a meal like one of these specialty meals you can only get it not so scary is on your list of things to do it early.
Mm-hmm.
We did it kind of later, and could definitely tell that my chicken sandwich had been sitting under the warmer for a while because it
Yeah.
was fairly dry.
Yeah.
Now Kharique got the same thing, and he was talking about how not dry his was, how good it was, how it seemed fresh, and uh, the chicken was still juicy, and it was good. The flavor was good. It was just I could tell it'd been sitting there
Yeah.
for a little bit.
We also tried um with that there was the key lime
The key lime lemon, or
uh,
you're talking about the
the
fingers?
fingers, like you had
Yeah,
the almond cookie fingers and
right.
like with like a key lime pudding
Yeah.
basically in the bottom, which weren't bad.
No, they were
Like
better than I thought they were going to
they
be.
were better than I thought they were going to be. I didn't love them together, but I liked them both individually.
See, and I like them better together, which is weird because I don't really like key lime pie, which
Mm.
is one of the very few pies I don't like.
um, we tried both of those. We did not get our sweet potato fries, which was on our bucket
Uh,
list of things. Here is the hard part for me about Mickey's Not So Scary, where I feel like we can plan out better like food in like we're going to eat here at this time like for this meal or this
mm-hmm.
snack or whatever and kind of plan our rides and things around that.
Mm-hmm.
Two things threw a wrench in our eating times.
Mm-hmm.
One was the fact that we got back over to the park early and we didn't want to eat regular park food. We were trying to
Right.
wait.
Yeah.
And then having the Tron virtual queue that was a fairly early
Mm-hmm.
Tron virtual queue
It was.
made a difference. And then essentially wasting 45 minutes in line
For Donald and
for
Daisy.
Donald and Daisy, and then having to make a decision of like, what do
What do
we
we
do
do now?
now?
Right.
Because it was too early before the parade, but not late enough to like do something else. Like
Right.
we were stuck in between. It is hard because of the shows and the back to back, like show parade, show
Mm-hmm.
fireworks, like because of the back to backness of it.
Right.
The hub is consistently busy
Yeah, it is.
from 8 p.m. on.
Right. I will say, as the night goes, it gets less busy up there
Yes.
because a lot of families will hit the first Hocus Pocus show.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hit the first parade,
Right.
fireworks, and then out.
Right.
So then it starts to thin out then.
Yeah.
So you can get more stuff done at the end of the night. You just don't want to save everything for the end of the night.
Right. We did not get our sweet potato fries,
No.
but we did have a substitute sweet potato fry that I think was pretty comparable
Did we?
at Epcot.
Oh yeah.
I think they were very similar, like
I think so.
toppings.
Yeah,
I really do.
I do.
Looking back at
Yeah.
at what the offering was. We'll talk about those in another
Yeah.
podcast. We got
Wait.
got several
Yeah.
different things when we were we
Yeah.
were in Epcot. So they with Mickey's Not So Scary, it is key that you tune into your family and your what you want to do.
Right.
One thing that we did go do that, you know, I kind of look back on it and I'm like, I know we always do it and I love this ride. It is a must do ride for me on every trip.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
But they did get rid of the actors in Pirates. There's no ride overlay. There is a band outside.
Mm-hmm.
They were really great. We didn't see them actually, like, heard them at one point,
Right.
but weren't nearby to actually
Right.
watch them.
No, but they will come down and interact with people too.
Yes.
So
So they seemed really, really cool, but they aren't, like, the ride itself is just the ride.
right.
So if that's one of those things where it used to be a ride overlay and it was a
Mm-hmm.
big deal to go ride it, made it worth it,
Mm-hmm.
like, it
No.
might not be worth it,
No.
especially because it is a ride you can potentially get wet on.
Right.
So
And it
keep that
was
in mind.
they were down to 3 rides with overlays.
Space Mountain, uh,
Teacups.
teacups, and it's not even a ride.
It's
It's they call it an overlay, but it's the Monsters and Claw floor.
oh, I was also thinking, and this isn't really even an overlay, but the entertainment in front of Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, but
Um,
I think that's just, is that considered part of an overlay?
I don't know if it is.
I'd have to
A
pull
lot of
the.
everyone's gonna go ride Haunted Mansion
Mm-hmm.
then anyway. Like so many people ride Haunted Mansion during Mickey's Not So Scary to begin with. But yeah, there's usually live performers out front, which I mean is good because I mean it helps eat up people.
Yeah.
It's a big people eater, but I feel like they could definitely do more with the overlays.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that that would help disperse more people.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. It feels really crowded, like there's a lot more people there than what there is because you get so many people that hang out in certain areas.
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
all the restaurants are open. Not all
That's
the,
true. Yeah,
and not even all the, like, not everything is open
right.
and
And
running.
in a lot of the table service restaurants that are open, not many people are going to them because they
Right.
don't want to waste their party time during
So
those.
you have these spaces that, like, if it was that many people in the park during the day,
Mm-hmm.
would feel totally fine.
Right.
Would be like, walk on pretty much everything,
Yeah.
slow waits, like, but um, just keep in mind it is a long night, especially if you
Mm-hmm.
get there at 4 and the party does not end until midnight.
Yeah. It's gonna be a long day, especially if you've been
You really
at
don't
a
get out of
park
there
all
until
day.
like close to 1 by the time that last show is done.
Right. And it's if you're staying on property and you're taking a bus back, like
Mm-hmm.
be prepared. It might take you a while. It's like what we said last year. That was we recommend if you're ever going to do a minivan, that's a good time to do it.
The hard part about doing it is that is one of the most expensive minivans.
It is.
It
It
is
is.
it is a those are rated based on availability and based on
Right.
popularity, and it is a more expensive minivan at the
It
end of the
is.
night.
It is. It might be worth it.
Yeah.
If you
Especially if you have smaller
It is.
smaller
It is.
people. Like for us, it wasn't a big deal. We were staying at a Magic Kingdom resort, so
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have to really deal with that.
Right.
I can't remember if we did the ferry or the monorail.
That night, what did we take?
We took the monorail.
Did we?
Yeah, I just because I remember riding it back
Yeah.
and stopping at the Contemporary and
Oh yeah. Nope. You're right. You're right.
um
And because there was somebody who rode the monorail over to Contemporary, and then it stops at Ticket and Transportation, and they got off there instead of waiting in the great big long line
yeah,
to go just straight to
they
Ticket and
kind of
Transportation.
they kind of took the cheat code of
Yeah.
taking that one
They were
to
smart.
TTC
Yeah.
because there was hardly anybody on our. I
No.
mean, it
No.
wasn't packed at all.
No.
And that is definitely the nice thing too, is like coming over from a Magic Kingdom resort is on a night like that is that you bypass security.
Yeah.
You did security at your resort rather than,
Yeah.
like, if you take a ferry or, well, I take that back. It depends on if you take the ferry or the monorail. Like taking the monorail from our resort, we'd already done security. Taking the ferry over,
We had not.
we had not. It depends on.
Yeah. Security's not that. I mean, I should say it's not that big of a deal.
You got stopped
I
several
got
times.
stopped twice because there was stinking first aid box in my bag, but took that out and didn't get stopped again.
Um, Yeah. It was, I mean, overall, it was a super fun night.
Right,
I'm really glad that we did it.
right. One other thing I want to touch on this year compared to last year was the trick or treat lines. Last year, they were handing things out by hand,
Mm
and we had some people we'd go up to, and they'd be like, "Oh, here's your one piece of candy."
hmm. Mm hmm.
This year, it's everybody gets a big metal scoop of candy,
Yeah.
and if it's your birthday and you're wearing a pin, sometimes you get two. But
Forgot I had my pin on for a while.
yeah, and it seemed like the lines were moving, even though it seems like it would take longer to get the scoop and pour it in. It seemed like they were actually going faster. At least to
Yeah.
me, it seemed like they were going faster. It
Yeah, I
seemed like
definitely don't feel like we ever stood. There was one trick or treat lane line that always seemed to be long, and that was the one in Tomorrowland. Um, like across from like there was one in Tomorrowland that always seemed to be really long, and I don't know why, but we hit several others where it was like walk right up.
yeah,
You had like two, three people ahead of you by the time you saw,
yeah,
like that was it. We didn't start really doing them until a little bit later though.
yeah, because we didn't want to carry candy all night, and
Yeah. Well, we were, yeah, I think our big thing was trying not to start before Tron, really.
yeah. Which I mean, we got on Tron pretty early. Um, Actually, I think we hit one right after Tron, but we were just able to put the bags right back into our
There
bags.
are, and just, like some of the trick or treat trails go through rides,
Mm-hmm.
like, or not rides, attractions. And so just, be aware of that. Although,
Right.
one thing I will say that was super, super fun, if you have littles, do the Disney Junior Dance Party Jam.
Oh yeah.
That was so cute. Fancy Nancy and Vampirina come into Cosmic Rays at different times and dance with the kids, and it was the cutest thing.
The moms were getting more into the music because of the music that he was playing than
He
as
had a good playlist going. I'm not going to complain about the playlist he had going. He did throw in some Powerline there too, so I
he
couldn't get
did.
too
He did.
couldn't get too upset.
There was definitely plenty of kids that were there that were trying to get into it.
Yeah.
DJ was trying his best. He was trying his best. Some of them were a little shy, I guess. They were kind of, hey, go up there and dance. But yeah, no, it looked like fun. I mean,
Like it's just one of those unique experiences for your kid to have there and be like, if you've got a 4-year-old who loves Fancy Nancy, like
yeah,
what a cool opportunity for them to
yeah,
get to
it is.
go do
It
that.
is. It is. And you can sit back there and eat because, let's be honest, like kids aren't eating a whole lot at the Halloween party. They're
No, they're eating
usually,
candy.
yeah, they're eating candy and they're too excited to sit there and eat.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good opportunity for you to sit there and eat and kind of enjoy what's going on there.
Yeah. I
Was
would say my takeaways are prioritize rides that are either overlays or something that you're like, I love doing that at night.
right.
Know where and when characters are meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You can see their locations in the app once the party starts.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see wait times for the characters, but you can see who is where.
Right.
So if that's helpful to you.
No, I agree. Like I've said before, try and have a plan. Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be like super detailed, like down to the minute spreadsheet, but have a plan of okay, these are the things I want to do, and this may be the order I have to go in.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get the absolute most that you can out of that night,
Yeah, because you don't want to be trying to zigzag all over the park, which
you
is
don't.
what we kind of ended up
We
doing.
we end up doing a lot of things we tell people not to do. Let's be
It's
honest.
hard not to when
It's
you're
not.
trying to
It
fit
is.
everything
It is.
in. It's
And
hard not to.
and when you're distracted by the squirrel as you're going through, meaning like, hey, I'm in Tomorrowland, but oh, I want to go do that. Like, oh, hey, Adventureland looks like fun. Like, I don't know how many times we like walked across the park.
Some of that was Genie Plus though too.
Some
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 of
of
it
it
was.
was, some of it was. or us just trying to meet up with
that's
people,
gonna be
or
a
yeah.
whole other episode of Genie Plus because um
Yeah. I don't know. I got a feeling it may be outdated here before long. We got some, I got a feeling there might be some announcements coming out about Genie Plus this weekend
I don't think it's
for
gonna be
D23.
outdated as far as like utilizing it though.
No, I think it's going to be there, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
We do have D23 coming this weekend.
We do. Which is
So
in Disney World.
it's in Disney World. Watch Twitter from us for that
Yeah.
information, you guys, because Jeremy's going to be much better about updating that in a timely manner than I will be able to on Instagram.
Yeah, I will do my best. I'm going to be up that morning watching the live, and
It's going to be a long couple of days here before that. So just,
right.
we've got Chiefs home opener
Yep.
Thursday night. We've got
Soccer game.
We've got, just, we're going to have a tennis match that night too.
I don't know. It's just, there's stuff going on.
Football game, high school football game Friday night with one of our big rivals. Like, it's going to be crazy. I do want to touch on, before we jump off of here, previewing some of the other things that we're going to be talking about in some of these other episodes. So
okay.
One of them is food and wine.
Food and wine, yep.
One of them is Genie Plus and just overall park days versus like
right, and how we kind of constructed it, I think.
Why we didn't use it on some things. Our resort stays.
Yeah, which one was very magical, and the other was probably would have been more magical, but seemed kind of a letdown.
It would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If we had not gotten pixie bombed.
Yeah.
At the Polynesian.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't followed us on Twitter or Instagram, and you didn't hear about this already, or if you're not a member of WDW Clubhouse, because I posted about it in there, because that was the first place where I was like, these people will understand.
Right.
We checked into the Polynesian when we arrived. And had been placed in a Bora Bora bungalow.
And we said, what?
The guy at check-in literally, he's like, okay, so, pulls Jeremy's like, okay, so I've got you staying in a bungalow. And it was like,
yeah, I think
it was like a movie where you just like, we looked at each other and looked at him and we're like, I'm sorry, what?
And I think at first I was like, I think we're supposed to be in a standard room. And then he was like, well, I can put you back in a standard room if you want, but we got you in a bungalow.
I was like, no, thank you. If you don't know, if you've never stayed at the Polynesian or you've never researched the Polynesian, the Bora Bora bungalows are literally out over the water off the, like basically in between the center point of the Polynesian over towards ticket and transportation. You have to take you have to scan in.
There's so many videos. It's the Polynesian's high-end rooms. We got put in the high roller suites.
We got put in the high roller suites. It literally has a little 3 foot by 4 foot pool.
I don't want to get too far into this because we're going to start reviewing this thing here.
We're going to start reviewing this thing.
It's going to be an hour and a half long.
It was
unbelievable.
It was unreal. There's so much about it
so much to share about it and to talk about.
And and even things like that, like ordering from Amazon.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There's so much that we want to go over with all of that. And it's been hard to I think that's been the hard part for me, has been coming back and trying to jump back into parenting and real life and work and all the things. And then on top of that, just trying to we've said several days, hey, we need to record. And we both kind of look at each other and where do we start?
Yeah.
Even 3 years later, we're there's so much to talk about from this trip. There was.
But I think, like we said in the beginning, this one was time sensitive. Because Mickey's Not So Scary only lasts for so long. It lasts a while. You still got all of September, all of October, and one day in November. So you still got a while,
Yeah.
right? Um, Food and wine is also time sensitive, but we didn't do as much with food and wine. Like we'll talk about food and wine and what we
Hmm.
did do, but we didn't do nearly as much there with that as what we did with Mickey's Not So Scary.
For sure.
So I think with that, I think that's a good place to end.
I do
Kind of gives
too.
you,
If you have questions about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, or, you know, what we learned from it, if you have something more specific, definitely check us out on Twitter or Instagram. We accept messages on
yeah,
both. We'd love to hear your comments and chat about what you think in those. Just be aware, if you do hit us up, we may use you in a future episode.
yeah, maybe so. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and say, go out and find your joy.
And have a magical week.